Well, everybody, I am back, and it's a Sunday morning sneak down for me, April 8th, 2017. But depending on how the magic of editing works out, this may have been an instantaneous transition for those of you watching. So, Tim Horton is no more, and the beverage of choice this morning is Starbucks French Roast. When I first tasted it, I really liked it, but I'm kind of getting tired of it. Buy it by the case at BJ's Wholesale Club. It's the best way to maximize your value on those little Keurig K-Cups. It's got a really bold, almost smoky overtone to it. It's interesting. Well, anyways, this isn't a coffee review. Although maybe I should do those. Anyways, so let's get this thing off the bench and let's take a look in the box and see what we've got in there for goodies. I'm hoping, looks like I see a couple already, but I'm hoping there's going to be a full set of pulleys for this thing because there's only two on here. So before I take this off, I'm just going to take a quick look here at this chart and remind myself what you need to basically recreate every single one of these speeds here. Okay, so always amazes me when I read this on these things. So the top speed that you can attain with this through a reduction with pulleys is if you go from a number 4 pulley on the motor to a number 1 pulley on the spindle, you can get this thing humming up to 42,500 RPMs. That's the idling spindle speed. In other words, not under load. 42,500 ripples. Man, that's cooking. All right, that's a number 4 to a number 1. I venture to guess that this really little one here is a number 1, which would make sense. You put a larger pulley on here to a smaller pulley there. That's going to be an increase in speed. And it looks like the sizes are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's 4 sizes of pulleys. Now what's interesting to me is there is no, on this chart, there is no number 1 to number 1. Double check the size on these 2 pulleys. Maybe these are number 2s, even though they look pretty small already. So you need 2 number 2s, and then you need a 1, a 3, and a 4. 5 pulleys would make this a complete set. Let's see what we got. Oh, well, cool beans. We've got all the pulleys, I believe. So we got, here's a number 4, clearly marked, 4. See how they balance these? It's interesting. That little, what looks like somebody oops with the drill, that's actually for balancing. That's kind of cool. You can really see it on the back of this one, see? They removed just a little bit of metal to balance these pulleys. So, sitting in the box with these 2 wrenches, so I figured since he was keeping them in there, they must fit something here, but they don't. They don't seem to fit. Oh, maybe they fit, okay, this one fits the collet closer on the spindle. This is a 1/2 inch SK Wayne. Now, I've got SK wrenches, but I don't think they say Wayne on them, so I wonder if that's an earlier one. I'll tell you what, now that I just looked at it here, I realize not only is it an SK wrench, but this has been ground. It's been ground to a taper. Even this little one has some metal removed from the back to balance it. Yes, sir, that's a number 2, and I already checked, and it's the same diameter as this one. So there's my pair of number 2s. So I should have a 1, 3, 4, and 5. So I should have a 1 should be smaller than this. So I've got, those are almost a match, but again, this is a crowned pulley, like what I would expect on here. This is not. but it's constructed very similarly. I wonder if this is from another grinder. I have to ask when I go back there whether or not he had more than one grinder. Ho-ho! Good news. Well, good news for me anyways. This is a number 1, clearly marked. Boy, that's small. So we get a number 1, 2 number 2s. So we need a number 3 and a number 4. Well, that's clearly the number 4. Although I'm not thrilled about this groove being on this. This must be a number 3. I notice these are all marked on this face, the opposite face that has the balancing on it. So I would expect this to be marked in here. And it is. There's a tiny number 3 right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the extra number 2. Full set of pulleys. That's good. See if we can figure out what this is. This is also a number 3, but it's marked down inside here as a number 3. So that's an extra number 3 pulley. The really small ones here are solid. These are not solid pulleys. You can see the difference between these two. This has got a very thin wall to it compared to this one. This has got a much thicker wall, not unlike the number 4. So I wonder whether or not this is the original. Actually, this does have a crown to it. It's very slight. I wonder if this is the original to this set. And I wonder if this is a spare that he picked up somewhere or had a second grinder. I don't know. Well, now that's interesting. I just found this in that box. It's got a groove in it. But I mean, that's such a narrow, it wouldn't make a very good pulley. Also, it's the wrong size. It doesn't fit. Yeah, it doesn't fit on the shaft. It just clears the threaded part, but won't go any further. So, I don't know what this is for. Maybe this is some sort of a, I don't know. This side's really chewed up. So if anybody owns one of these grinders and has a piece like this in their kit and knows what it's for, I'd be interested to know. Alright, so next thing I just wanted to see was whether or not, if I put some oil in this oil hole right here, if this, curious whether or not this gets any happier. Like I said, you know, for the age, it seems like it's running okay. It doesn't have a high-pitched bearing sound that makes me think it's going to seize during use, but let me get the mic down here. There's almost looks like there's something blocking this hole, but from experience, I know not to go trying to dig that out because that may very well be a felt that's designed to keep that from the oil just freely gushing in there and just keeping everything wet. And if that is a felt, I should mention at this point, it was dry, little dry, which is, probably should have put some oil in there before I even fired this up. Well, that sounds exactly the same. So that's not going to be the magic elixir. When I play that back, it might sound different to me. Maybe that is a little bit better. Alright, so I'm looking in the back, the box of tricks there with everything that's in there. A bunch of grinding wheels and everything, and lo and behold, I come across this. Okay, which is clearly, it's an arbor for larger wheels. Okay, I know from the shield that came with it that this is clearly made to do this. Alright. But what I'm not quite sure on is, okay, it looks to me like what you got to do is take, if one of these wrenches fits this other. And that's what this other cheap Japanese wrench was being used for. I bet you it was being used on this. Oh no, maybe that. This thin one? Yeah, that's it. That's what he was doing. So this is your, these are your two wrenches for your collet closer, that little collet that's in there. Okay. But there must be a way, well, maybe not. Trying to figure this out on my own here and not coming up with any answers. Well, as is often the case, a little bit of a trip around the web on Google, and I answer my own questions. So this grinder had 3 spindles. This spindle here, which is a collet closer spindle, which is supposed to have 2 collets for 2 different size shanks for small internal grinding wheels, or I guess a really small external one. This for internal grinding with a small wheel deep inside, and then a 3rd spindle that's missing that would take this for the larger grinding wheels. So I'm hoping that when I go back there tomorrow that I'll find this spindle and it didn't make it to the scrap yard, because that would be a real bummer. So the thing I'm going to do right now is see if I can find this other collet. So I just removed the collet. That's what it looks like, that little sucker there. Okay. And lo and behold, in the box, what I find is the other one. Look at that sucker. That's like the little Dremel tool sized grinders. Wow. Oh, actually, he did have a couple of wheels in there for this one. Huh. That's interesting. Now I know from my other grinder that there's supposed to be a belt guard that goes up here for you safety-minded individuals, and that's missing. But the good news is the original holder for the belt guard, basically this just sits in here like this. Would have been a couple of screws to tighten right there, and then the sheet metal belt guard assembly will be held on by these 2 wing nuts. That's another thing I can look for when I go back there. But you know, it's going to be a real long shot to get those parts. This is a nifty little idea. He made, or someone made, a guard for the small grinding wheels. So this looks like it's just a piece of yeah, this is just a piece of pipe that he cut, and he cut a half of the pipe diameter off there, and then he bored this out, probably in the lathe, so that slides right over the end here. Okay. Put some slits in there, you know, stainless steel hose clamp, and of course that's the wrong end, but you get the drift. That's kind of a neat idea. Hey everybody, it's been a few days since I was back down here in the basement looking at this, going through this this last haul from this estate sale. But I want to get back to this, close out this whole discussion about the number 5 tool post grinder. This is the other number 5 tool post grinder that I got a deal on. This one I bought for even less at an estate sale. But I decided to break it out because I was curious to see what was different, and the color is very different on this one. This one looks a lot cleaner. The other one's black, so I think the other one's older. This one I do have the guard, which is nice. This one does have that arbor or that spindle that's missing in the other one, and you can actually see right here on the end, this, I believe, is the spindle that I actually have right here. So it looks a little bit different, but I think this right here can come out of here, and different spindles can be put on there maybe, I don't know. But I'm kind of like, I'm thinking I'm just going to put this all this stuff away, think about this some other time and go through it, because there's pluses and minuses.
I noticed this box doesn't have the slots for the extra spindles in it, which makes me think, well, okay, maybe when you bought one of these, it didn't automatically come with those other spindles. I mean, it gets kind of confusing. So, like when I look back here at this spindle right here, oddly enough, I think that there's a way that this might be able to come out of here, because I actually found on eBay in previous sales, somebody paid big bucks just for this extra long arbor. So I think this might be a premium piece right here. So it's starting to look like I might want to just try and make a complete one set out of all of this stuff I have here and then sell off any extra parts. This one, like I said, it's in better shape. It appears to be in better shape than the one I just picked up. But this one, I noticed the problem right off the bat is I've only got 2 pulleys on here, which means since we already figured out that it's what is it, a 5 pulley set, I must be missing 3 pulleys for this one. So, all right, so I don't want to spend any more time talking about this thing, and I got to get some batteries just kind of as an aside. As I've been editing this video, I've noticed that my static and noise situation with the lavalier microphone is still coming and going, which is nerve-wracking to anybody watching and listening, and also to me while I'm editing. So I have procured another used lav mic. This is a SEMA mini sound catcher wireless remote microphone system for video cameras. So I'm going to give this a try. This comes with this type of microphone, so you can do like a live on the scene kind of reporting live from blah blah blah. But it also has the little lapel microphone, and it's got a little transmitter, and it's got a little receiver. The receiver for this thing is really small. Here is the receiver. Actually, interestingly enough, it actually has even a shoe connection here. So if you have a camera, like a more conventional video camera with a shoe on the top for a light, you can actually mount this in there. And it's got an antenna. The drawback to this system is that it's battery operated, and it uses AAA batteries, which I do not have right now. So I'm going to have to pick up some AAA batteries. There are 2 required for the transmitter and 2 required for the receiver. Once I get some batteries, we'll test this thing out and see if that doesn't solve my current microphone issue. I kept spotting here and there in several different locations. I'd spot a decent sized Morse taper drill bit, and I'd be like, oh, maybe I'd get, if I could get those. So finally I said, hey, tell you what. I said, if you'd be willing to go $1 a piece, I'd be willing to take like 20 of these Morse taper drill bits, put together a pile. And he said, yeah, okay. He agreed to that. And then, funny thing is, I started looking around, and he had said that he wanted to keep some of the ones that would be smaller ones that he could use in the tailstock of the South Bend lathe that he was going to hold on to. So I said, okay, I'll set those aside. Well, when I started setting those aside and only looking at the bigger ones, I quickly realized there wasn't many there. So what ended up happening was I got 5 drill bits. So I ended up getting these 5 drill bits for $5. That's a good deal. This one's actually got a taper adapter on it. Well, guys, we have quite a cacophony of twist drill brands right here. We've got this has got a B.S above a little diagram of a machinist square. So this must be an early Brown and Sharp twist drill. This is a 1-inch. This is a good old Cleforge twist drill. This is a 15/16 Cleforge. This one is marked UTD 7/8. It's a UTD. I'm guessing that stands for United Twist Drill, maybe? Or maybe it's Utica Twist Drill. I don't know off the top of my head what that is. If Greg Brown sees this video, I'm sure he will tell us. 13/16, another Cleforge. And then this one here, this is marked, it's marked a 5/8" drill, HS for high speed. But the only other markings I see is it says New York, USA. So that's an interesting one, New York, USA. And then we got the adapter is, I think a lot of these adapters, notice a lot of these are unmarked. Well, anyways. So $5 for that pile.